Now we enter competency number 4 on trust and safety. And I like this idea of cultivating trust and safety. It's not imposing trust and safety, but cultivating trust and safety. And this is the only competency that has remained unchanged over the last 5 years. And even in this new update, there is no change to any of these revision of the words and expression. And I like this idea. In fact, one of the things that we often don't spend enough time on is understanding the different nuance and degrees of building trust and safety. Trust is not given. It takes conversational trust and respect, and it takes time to go deeper with the conversations with our clients. And one of the definitions that ICF gave for trust building, it's partnering with client to create a safe, supportive environment that allows the client to share freely, maintains a relationship of mutual respect and trust. And what this really means is this, that in the space of trust building, it's not about trying to impress the client. And sometimes we think that trust means we just show empathy. It's not quite like that. In fact, today, empathy has become a badge of things that I do rather than having authentic, empathic response to the client. Today, we use so many different words like authenticity, radical curiosity, radical candor, trust with clients. But what does it really mean to have a trusted conversation? Is it in the choice of words alone? Is it in the way we express? Is it in the non-verbals? Is it in our eye contact, our verbal cues, not body language? What is trust? Well, in different culture, trust is built differently. Sometimes our overly expressive way of smiling, using a lot of words to seem to acknowledge the client, but it feels very unnatural to the other party. In fact, in the Asian culture, a lot of times trust is built in a very subtle manner. We don't overly express it. We don't overly emphasize it. But there is an evidence of that trust and respect in that conversation when you notice it. So, what is explicit for one culture may be implicit for another culture. And so, I would like to encourage all of us to consider how trust building is experienced across different cultures, different societies, different communities, different generation. So it doesn't mean that the way I build trust with one generation will be the same as how I would build with another generation. Every different individual is different and unique. And so the way we build trust, we must honor what it means to build trust at a human level. There's no one fixed formula, but you can feel and experience. And the way we know is when the client begins to open up to you. And this is the litmus test of trust. To that degree, you can go deep in a conversation. It's that degree of trust you have with the client. If you want to go deep with the client, your trust with the client has to be deeper. If you realize that when you ask questions, it just stays at the surface, you know that the trust level or the perception or the perceived level of trust is not at the level where the client feels ready, feels okay, feels safe enough to be fully open and transparent in a conversation. And trust is something that I feel will be irreplaceable by technology. As much as technology can ask the best questions or AI can ask the best questions, you can teach them how to ask and respond in different languages and different nuances and formulate fantastic questions. But trust building, it's a very human connection. And someone asked me before, what is that human algorithm that would never be replaced by an AI algorithm? And that is trust building. Because trust, it's very hard to be taught, but you can feel it the very instant someone enters the door. The very instance when someone opens their mouth, the very instance when someone engages with you, you know whether the person is putting a front, is the person genuine, is the person authentic, is the person real. And oftentimes what we see explicitly is what we experience internally. Have we taken time to engage with our clients at a deeper level? So, like I mentioned, there's no change to the new updates in terms of sub competencies, but something to think about. You can use this every single day. Welcome emotions, beliefs, concerns with respects, acknowledge unique talents and contributions, adapt to client style and worldview, and use transparency to model trust. So, this adaptation to client style language is very, very important. How do we do this? you need the coaching mindset. You need to spend time understanding different worldviews, appreciate different worldviews, and not to impose your worldview on another person. Today, I've come across many coaches who are well read. They have studied many different philosophies, psychology, many different schools of studies, and they believe that they understand worldviews very well. And this is what I often say this. When I enter the conversation, I throw out every single thing that I have in mind. I just come with no pretense. I try my best to have no pretense. I cannot enter 100% no pretense. I'm aware of my own biases. I'm aware of what I may inevitably impose on the client. But I take a step back and say, hey, this space is for the clients. I'm here to support them. Less of me, more of them. I should not be in the picture, but I would just want my client to shine. And I want to support them in the best way possible. And the way we do this is there is a feedback mechanism when when I'm engaging them. There's also a response from them. I'm checking with them. How is this conversation supporting you? Is there anything that I can improve or any way that I can serve you better? So this relationship is not just one direction, not unidirectional. It's both ways. They teach me as I am involved in the conversation. When done well, respect happens. Language adapts to the client. Empathy is present and client feels safe, seen, acknowledged, heard, felt, and loved. Transparency is live. Coach names what is present with honesty and sometimes calling out whenever we notice the client is falling short or when the client, misses a certain mark and the coach wants to challenge the client to take a little step forward, to take a little deeper risk. You see, with trust, when trust deepens, you can take more risk with the client. And what do we mean by taking risk? Which means you can challenge the client. Perhaps the client's only at 80%. Could we try 85%, 90%? So there is that space of vulnerability and willingness, commitment to push a little boundary further. So, for example, client shares a sensitive identity concern, and coach validates that and explores safely, adapting style. And trust is that invisible atmosphere where courage learns to breathe. I love that so much, right? Where trust is the invisible atmosphere where courage learns to breathe. How are we trusting today? How are we entering this space? How are we giving that space to breathe? So to me, trust is like the oxygen, it's like the air. It's invisible, but it's where courage learns to breathe. Some of the common struggles where we may inevitably impose certain judgment and the coach may challenge in a dismissive tone or ignoring the client's identity or using a one-size-fits-all model, framework, tools, techniques, or language. And trust requires building contextualization to every individual, team, and organization. And this is something that I often realize that is missing. We cannot just use a certain framework of trust building. Like some coaches will say, oh, I use the speed of trust. I use the 7 steps of trust. I use this empathic model. I use this EQ or EI model of trust building or empathic building. I said, hey, let's take a step back. The models, the frameworks are great. The readings are great. The insights are great. But what are we noticing here in this conversation with our clients? Before we impose or impress our tools and techniques, how can we come with greater simplicity? And so one of the common ways I often help coaches to realize is think about this. Little children, little animals, pets, they have never attended a course on trust building. They have never attended a practitioner course on emotional intelligence, nor have they learned philosophy, psychology, behavioral sciences. But they know instinctively how to notice another person, how to make another person feel loved, respect, honored, seen, heard, felt, loved, all by observing the other party. Next time when you observe a child, you'll be surprised that they are some of the best trust builders. They notice, they can feel, they can sense. The gut, the intuition is telling them something. And there's something to think about as well. Trust building requires contextualization, not imposition. And withholding transparency, creating distance, eroding safety, rushing too fast to actioning before the clients feel secure. So, for example, coach ignores a client's discomfort and pushes for action, and clients withdraw. So safety cannot be claimed by words. It is proven in presence. So I like to say that again. Safety cannot be claimed by words. It is proven in presence. And that's the beauty of having safety or a safe space in the conversation space.